All right. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining me this Friday evening. I'm trying to do something a little new for the live stream, so this clearly looks a little bit different, and that's intentional. Just I want to try and play around, and I'm moving my streaming software as well, so that this is actually made possible just by overlays. So I do want to talk a little bit about some news that we're hearing about today. Inflation has actually come down, which is good news. We've been talking about inflation coming down for a very long time now. We saw a period of time where it dipped, then it went back up, then it dipped again. We've had a significant drop in inflation. But that isn't the whole story that I want to talk about on this stream. I want to talk a little bit about the fact that listening to Jeremy Hunt speak today, he is in favor of further interest rate rises, even if that pushes the UK into recession. And if you've been paying attention to some of the stuff I've been talking about in terms of the forecast for the UK, we were forecast to narrowly, just narrowly miss a recession this year. If with Jeremy Hunt saying the things that he said today, it is likely that he will encourage further interest rate rises. We'll talk about that too. And that could potentially push us into a recession. Now, that does sound like bad news. He gives reasons, and I'm going to show you some of that stuff. But that's what we're going to be talking about. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Pete. And if you've been following me for a while, then you know exactly what we do here. We talk about money, we talk about investing, we talk about the economy, all the things that matter so that, you know, we're informed about the decisions that we have to make. And towards the end of the stream, I am going to have some thoughts that I do want to share because I keep getting the same kind of questions around what's going to happen to interest rates, Pete. Are they going to come down? Can we expect them to go back down to 1-2%? I think that boat has firmly sailed, and that will come apparent as we go through the stream this evening. So if you do enjoy this, you do get value from this, do me a favor, smash the like button for me. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm. We're also trying to grow the channel, which is why I've got the sub count here. We're trying to push that as far as possible, although it is not the main metric. The main metric here is being able to give you information that will empower you to feel like you're in control of your own personal finances. So, right, let me just share. And I'm going to be looking this way because I'm looking at my screens and my camera's here. So forgive me. And I've got quite a few things up at the moment that I need to kind of just show you. So let's go with this one first and foremost. So this is the information from the Bank of England website right now. Look at that inflation rate, 8.7%. So prior, it was at 10.1%. So we've seen quite a significant drop in that inflation rate. And this is encouraging to see. And listening to Jeremy Hunt speak today, when you have this kind of impact, I think because the target for inflation is 2%, and it's still what 4.5 times, close to 4.5 times, about close to 4.5 times what it should be. The impetus is in our favor, if you will. So the guys at the Bank of England are already talking about the potential of pushing interest rates even higher. Now, there have been a number of sources that said that the last interest rate hike that we saw was going to be the last one of the year. And if you followed my video that I made maybe a week or so ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago, I said that the city is actually betting on there being a further rate rise before the summer actually hits. And the consensus then was that it was going to be like another 1.1 or 0.15% interest rate hike. So remember, we're at what, 4.5 right now, I believe we're at. Let me just share this screen so I can give you all of the context that you essentially need. Let's go back on this one, and we want this screen right here. So this is the current interest rate. So we're at 4.5 right now. It was at 4.25, right? And the forecast for Q2 is 4.75. Now, what they're saying in the news today is that Jeremy Hunt would not be too averse to interest rates actually going to 5.5%. 5.5%. It's quite a big jump. So that's additional 1% that is still potentially to come. And I do want to play you a clip of him actually speaking. We'll come back to this screen in a moment. Let me just grab this screen for you, and we can actually listen to him speak when he was asked the question of his thoughts on inflation and what we have to do to ensure that we're able to bring inflation under control. So this is from the Evening Standard. This is a journalist speaking to Jeremy Hunt, and this is earlier today.
In a sense, the numbers were a bit of a shocker. I mean, we both know that it was good, but the headline rate came down, but the core rate went up. And now look at interest rate expectations up to 5.5%. Are you comfortable with that, with the Bank of England doing whatever it takes to bring down inflation, even if that potentially would precipitate that recession that you've almost just avoided?
Yes, because in the end,
even if there's a
the
recession.
inflation is a source of instability. And if we want to have prosperity, if we want to grow the economy, if we want to reduce the risk of recession, we have to support the Bank of England in the difficult decisions that they take. And indeed, I have to do something else, which is to make sure the decisions that I take as Chancellor, very difficult decisions, to balance the books so that the markets, the world can see that Britain is a country that pays its way. All these things mean that monetary policy at the Bank of England, fiscal policy by the Chancellor are aligned. And only this week, the Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund praised the authorities in the UK for acting decisively to bring down inflation. And what I would say, Ed, is that when the Prime Minister announced that it was his objective to halve inflation in January, there were some people who derided that. They said, well, it's automatic. Inflation is going to come down anyhow. There's nothing automatic about bringing down inflation. It is a big task, but we must deliver it, and we will.
Right. Okay. So those were comments from Jeremy Hunt literally earlier today. And there are a couple of things that kind of jump out to me here. So he said he's going to support the Bank of England in the difficult decisions they need to make in order to bring inflation down. Now, it's very important to understand that that is then using monetary policy as the tool to do so. And one of the tools that you use in monetary policy to do that is interest rates. So we've already spoken about the fact that there is talk now of interest rates going from 4.5% to 5.5% in a bid to bring down this inflation number. He talked about the fact that the head of the IMF praised the UK authorities, i.e. Rishi and him and the team, about being decisive in this battle to try and tackle inflation and to balance our books. That is more about fiscal policy. So this is about stuff that you can legislate through government in terms of how benefits are paid and what money is being spent over what departments. It's really important to note Bank of England, which is monetary policy, and then what they're doing in Parliament as the people who run our governments, those are two separate things. Now, we're talking specifically about the fact that the Bank of England base rate may increase. And what does that do? It means that potentially we're going to see mortgage rates increase even further than they are right now. In fact, if we just have a look at this article, and I need to swap out screens yet again, so bear with me just a moment whilst I'll do this. There is already talk of Nationwide, which is one of the biggest mortgage providers in the country. They've increased rates today on their mortgages by 0.45%. So that last, 0.5% increase that we've seen across the bank rate over the last maybe 3 to 4 months, that is now firmly being transferred into the mortgage market. And I think it's very, very important that we understand all of this information as we go along. So here it is right here. I'm just going to scroll up so you can see this. And it says here, it surely emerged that Britain's biggest building society, the Nationwide, is increasing some of its mortgage rates up by 0.45% from today, and saying that this will ensure its rates remain sustainable in the current economic environment. And that's more to do with, the cost of them actually borrowing money, but ultimately it's going to be passed on to consumers and to mortgage holders, people who already have mortgages like myself, first-time buyers looking to get on the property ladder. So look, these comments from Jeremy should be taken as they are intended, right? He's given his fall back into Andrew Bailey, the monetary policy team at the Bank of England, to do what they need to do in order to bring down inflation. And let's be completely honest, when you look at this number, we still have a very, very long way to go to get inflation down to the 2% target. There are conversations and debates as to whether or not we should be revising what the new inflation target should be, up from 2 to 3 or 4%. But 2% is generally where it's been for a very, very long time. And I don't know what they would need to consider to actually revise it to something more like 4 because of the impact that it potentially has. But at this current rate at 8.7%, yes, we've won. But when you look back over the course of the last 3 years, this is still significantly more than what it has been, given the environment in which we find ourselves. So this is the real enemy here. This is what you feel on your day-to-day, monthly shop, right? When you go to Tesco's, when you go to Sainsbury's, when you go to Aldi, Lidl, wherever it is that you shop, the increase in food prices, the increase in fuel prices at the pump, these increases are the things that translate to inflation. And yes, for different people, you may say that my inflation rate is definitely more than 8.5%, because when they measure inflation, it is by a basket of things and they can easily swap out those things. But this is the headline rate that the Bank of England is going with at the moment. It has reduced. Yes, that is fantastic news, but there is still a very, very long way to go. And from what we're hearing today, he's more than happy to risk a recession in a bid to bring down inflation even further. Now, look, these are the forecasts, right? And I'm sure that by tomorrow, these are going to change. And this is on trading economics. And I would encourage you that if you are interested in this kind of stuff, look at these forecasts because, and let me just say, by the way, these are forecasts, i.e. they are predictions, i.e. we're not saying that this is absolutely going to happen. By definition of a forecast, we're best guessing what we think is going to happen in the future. And these numbers will change as they have changed. But at this current time, as we can see, 8.7%. In Q2, they're hoping for an 8% inflation rate. Q3, 5.8. And Q4, 2.9. Pretty ambitious. Lots of stuff needs to happen. Lots of stuff needs to go right. Is that going to happen? I have no idea. But we are going to start seeing the benefit of energy prices coming through, which will help with this inflation number even more now, because the price cap has come to the price of wholesale energy on the markets have dropped quite considerably, but there's a 3-month gap before that filters through to the market. So we're going to start seeing that come through at some point in the future. Now, interest rates. I mean, they're still predicting that interest rates are going to be at 4.25% in Q1 2024, which is, where was that line? Which is this line right here for you to see it. I think that this is going to change significantly. Personally, that's what I think. Because if they are saying that they're happy for interest rates to go up to 5.5%, then this is going to move. And this is going to move for people who have mortgages, so on and so forth. I mean, it's going to be a very, very interesting thing to keep track of. I mean, look at our GDP, which is really how they measure a recession, right? So growth in Q2, 0.3%, 0.1%, 0.2%, 0.3% in 2024. If he does increase this line right here, this line is likely going to go into the minus, which is basically where you get a recession where you see a minus performance for 2 consecutive quarters. He's happy to risk this right now. So let's talk a little bit about the stuff that actually really, really matters, and the stuff that I guess you watching this channel, if you have a mortgage, may be more concerned about, or maybe you are concerned about it if you are a first-time buyer and actually you're looking at the mortgage rates right now thinking, what do I do? Do I fix? Do I not? I had a message on Instagram literally this week, someone saying, what do you think is going to happen with interest rates? People saying that they're going to hold out and see if interest rates drop. Let me be very, very clear. I think that the days of 1%, 2% mortgages are over. And the only thing that you need to do is you need to have a look at the interest rate curve since 1970. I haven't got it up right here, and I don't know whether I can get it up in time, but historically, we are still at very, very low interest rates given our historic trend. Back in the 1970s, you could not help but think that interest rates were going to fall because they were dealing with interest rates in the double digits, 12, 15% interest rates. This is in, Thatcher days, right? And it only makes sense that through the years, through the decades, we have cultivated this idea that, all of a sudden interest rates are going to fall because at the end of the day, there was nowhere for it to go but down. We have been in a very, very low interest rate environment for such a long time that what we're seeing right now is a reverse of that pendulum. And I have got it here. Let me see if I can actually share it with you very quickly so you can see what I'm I'm looking at here. So this right here is the interest rates historically. I mean, look at that. Look at this right here. That's absolutely huge. This is in, 1980s. What's that? 16-ish%. But look at where we've been since the 2000s. Historically low. I mean, since what? 2009. Look at this. On the floor. We're now seeing an uptick. And I think that this uptick in relation to where we've come from is minuscule. So to expect that we're going to start seeing interest rates come back down here and therefore mortgage and borrowing rates to come back down here, I think is wholly misguided. I've just realized I need to switch this one over so you can actually see me properly. Bear me 1 second. There we go. I think that interest rates are going to come back down here will be wholly misguided. Really, really, really misguided. And so what does that actually mean for you if you are a first-time buyer, if you're looking to remortgage right now and you're just kind of confused, you're dazed about whether or not you should go for a fixed rate or whether you should go for a tracker? Because this is what people are asking me. And this is my response. First and foremost, you need to go speak to a mortgage professional so that they can help you understand what the rates are right now. They can go through an affordability with you and they can give you the lay of the land, i.e. what rates are available, so on and so forth. But here's the main thing. And I had this conversation with someone today on a podcast. We cannot control all of this economic stuff that's happening. It's completely outside of our remit. We can't control recession happening. We can't control inflation going up, going down. We can't control the base rate. We can't control interest rates or mortgage rates moving as a result of that. Those are outside of our control. And therefore, if we're going to be pragmatic, what we need to do is we need to think about the things that we can control. And those things are our decisions when it comes to our personal finances. So if you think that from a financial point of view, in your personal finances, that you have enough money in the coffers to wait out the possibility, and let me just say a very slim possibility, that mortgage rates might fall, and you stay yourself on a tracker, but in the full knowledge that actually if payments go up, you've got enough money to cover it, then maybe that is the best thing for you to do. I don't know that many people who are in that kind of position. However, if you're on the opposite side of this coin, where all you want is control, you want to be able to budget from a known base, you want to know that your mortgage payment is not going to be going up anytime soon, you're fixed in so you can plan for other things financially, then perhaps a fixed rate is the best thing to do. Should you lock in for 2 years? Should you lock in for 5 years? Well, that's where a mortgage advisor will help you to understand what the choices are. I can't really say much more than that, but I do have to stress, like, interest rates are not going back to where they were. That's not happening. And if it does, we might as well all play the lottery on that bet, because we would all win very, very big. In relation to where we've been, we are still at historic lows. There is no reason, there is no cause for interest rates to be as low as they are. So we have to, I guess, adapt to the economy, to the environment in which we find ourselves now, and we have to base our financial decisions off the back of that. And we may well be heading into a recession next year, even this year. Who knows? But from the language that we've spoken about and we've heard from Jeremy Hunt today, he is in full support of the Bank of England doing what is necessary to ensure that they're able to bring inflation down to the 2% target. Right, I'm just going to jump on and have a look at the comment section right here. Let's see what you guys are all saying. Where's my mouse? And do me a favor, if you've not already smashed the like button, if you've got value from this, then please do so, because that would really, really help me. Actually, I'm on a new chat thing here. Let me just swap this out very quickly, and let's see what you guys are saying. And by the way, let me know, do you like this new layout? Because it took me a while to actually get this and to get the ratios of what you're seeing on screen 100% right, and it's taken a little bit of trial and error, and I'm trying a new streaming platform right now. I much prefer this look personally. I think it looks a little bit more polished, a little bit more professional, and it allows me to put information on the screen so that when you're dialing, you know exactly what we're talking about. But let me know what you think, because if you guys like it, then I may actually just keep it and carry on as we are. Right, so let's just have a look at some of the comments that we're seeing right here. Let's have a look. Let's see. We've been in a recession for the last 3 years due to the pandemic. So we've been told, or so we've been told. I mean, I think we've definitely seen, we've seen the economy suffer as a result. Would you call it an official recession? I mean, there was this trend across YouTube and social media when the actual definition of a recession is when you see a reduction in GDP in 2 consecutive quarters. And I remember seeing a couple of videos and YouTubers actually pointing out the fact that the dictionary definition of that had changed, and there was this theory because the fact that they didn't want to let people know that we were in a recession officially, right? But I definitely think that you're right to a certain extent. We have seen economies across the world, including ours, suffer as a result of that. So we are in a bit of a downturn. Whether they want to call it an official recession, though, is anyone's guess, right? But thanks for the comment, Mar. Mar's also just saying here, doubt that we're in a new recession, probably just the government using fear again, as usual. Take what they say with about £1 billion of salt. Yes, there is some definite truth to that, but at the same time, I think that you do need to pay attention to the detail of what's going on, because it will inform better decisions. And sometimes it's all about reading between the lines. A lot of the time, they don't give you the whole truth, and that's the thing about politicians. They signpost things, they foreshadow things, and then they say things where you have to read between the lines to kind of get a grasp of what it is that they're saying. And I think that is important, to be able to read between the lines 100%. Edna's saying hello. Edna, how you doing? Andy's also on here as well. What's Andy saying? Great to be on a live with you. It's been a while for me. How is everything? Anything for us to be on the lookout for in the coming weeks, e.g. investments, markets? Really, really good question, mate. Listen, I'm keeping a very close eye on the whole debt ceiling debacle over in the States. I mean, they're running out of time. I haven't checked it over the past couple of days, but they are razor thin right now. Like, they are so close to default, and it's just this political pandering, and it's complicated because the Speaker of the House, there's something to do with his job. It's a mess. I have never known for the debt ceiling conversation to take this long or get to this point where it's so close to the deadline. The Americans won't do anything that will sabotage their economy, but it feels like, I was speaking to an American yesterday, it feels like the country is so divided there at the moment that I just hope that they can put party politics aside and do the right thing. If they default, it's going to be a disaster. So I think that's definitely one thing to look out for. But I'm confident that they'll find a way through some kind of compromise, because frankly, they have to. And if they don't, it would be catastrophic for the US. It will be catastrophic for the market. It will be catastrophic for everyone. Nobody wins if that happens. So hopefully they get it sorted. Vishal's just saying here, Rishi and Hunt have done nothing. Look at gilt yields nearly at trust levels. I think that they have. I completely disagree with you there, mate. They have done a very, very good job of trying to stabilize the pound. If you think back to the disastrous budget from Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng, the recovery has been brilliant, restoring confidence. And Jeremy Hunt kind of alluded to it in that clip that we watched right there. The IMF, knowing that the government now is going to do what is necessary in terms of spending cuts, reining in, spending, in opposed to what Liz Truss was suggesting, which was masses of more money to fund things. That isn't sustainable from an economic point of view. So I think they've done a great job. It just means that sometimes they can't please everyone. And that is the reality. They cannot cater to every single person in the UK. They can cater to groups, and you could argue that that is unfair, but fiscal policy is such a thing. It's such a blunt tool sometimes that it's there to do one particular job. But clearly there are going to be things that drop through the cracks, people that drop through the cracks in anything that you announce. It's never, ever going to be perfect. But I think that they've done a great job. And, regardless of where you sit in politics, everyone should hope that they get this right, because if they get it wrong, everyone suffers at the end of the day, and definitely some more than most. All right, let's have a look. What's next? Nicholas is just saying here that that's why he's fixing for 5 years at the moment. It's too uncertain at the minute, and I would completely agree with that right now. It is very, 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 very uncertain right now. So yeah, like I said, do what you feel is right for you, because that's the most important thing at the end of the day. You've got to sleep at night, and if you make a decision that doesn't allow you the luxury of sleeping well at night, then you've done yourself a disservice. So to a certain extent, take with what you hear on social media with a pinch of salt, and try and make the best decision for you. America is saying here, America blocked the Nord Stream pipeline. And what right has America enforcing sanctions on other countries? Dude, listen, I completely agree with you on that. I mean, American foreign policy is one-sided, right? And they are going to fight tooth and nail to remain dominant in the world. They just will. And you could argue, how did we get here with the UK, with the war in Ukraine? Why didn't they come to the table? If they came to the table and actually spoke, maybe we wouldn't be here. But we are where we are. And, this is where people will talk about there needs to be a reset. There needs to be a reset in the way power is distributed globally. And that's a very, very complicated, multifaceted subject to approach. But I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you on the fact that, America enforcing sanctions, they've used the dollar for that for centuries, for decades now. And with the dollar losing its power and its primacy, and I did a video talking about the petrodollar. That's a great video, by the way, go watch it. Talk a little bit about how they've used the dollar as their tool to keep supremacy. A lot of that is under threat now with BRICS, but who knows how that situation is going to play out. Yeah, and he's just saying there, the dollar's in big trouble. Carly, how you doing? Visuals is saying here that he needs rates to keep rising. Well, it's going to be good for savers for sure. So yeah, I'm a first-time buyer with a large deposit. Let's have a look at this. I'm a first-time buyer with a large deposit. The higher rates go, the bigger the house price drops. That is true. So you do have that converse effect, an impact on the property market, and that's going to be very sensitive to local environments as well. Yes, you're going to see drops in places like London, but you may not see other significant drops in other areas because of the way markets are priced. You might even find that London is resilient, more resilient than you think, and property prices fall elsewhere. So there is definitely an impact on the property prices. I know that landlords are certainly looking at things right now thinking, is this even worth it anymore? Because their profits are being eaten into as landlords. And that brings us into the conversation of property, whether property is an attractive proposition anymore. There is a very big debate to be had around that, which is why people are going more towards social housing facilitation, HMOs, warehousing, those kind of things. It's an interesting place to be right now. Visual saying new layout is better. Thank you for that. Very good. I like this feedback. I will continue to use this. It takes a little bit more work to actually put together because you've got to design elements for every live stream that you do. And I sometimes don't have time to do that, if I'm completely honest. But if I plan far enough ahead of time, I should be able to do that. But yeah, thank you very much for the feedback. Let's have a look at what... Yeah, someone's saying about here the American debt ceiling. America can't just keep increasing its overdraft. Yeah, I know. In my opinion, the debt ceiling with all the increase will be increased at the 11th hour as usual, and the nutters go on another spending spree. Yes, I completely agree with that. I mean, look, at the end of the day, they can't do anything but increase the debt ceiling. They have to. Because if they don't, they will default. And so this is where it becomes very, very weird, right? Because you're consistently spending on the credit card. And every single year you push it even further and even further and even further. It's unsustainable. Someone just saying I fixed 5 years because I don't trust it. Good call. Really, really good call. Someone's saying here, my brother is actually saying here, if the government has a good fiscal policy, it's what helps with the economy policy to be active and turns the economy, the country economic system, the economic system. So I think what you're saying there is good fiscal policy helps with economic growth, and yes, it does. When you find yourself in a situation where you're battling inflation like this, like I said, monetary policy only goes so far, and up until now, that's what they've been relying on. They've been relying on monetary policy to do what is necessary. There will be fiscal policy, economic policies that can be introduced by the government to increase trade and increase GDP, those kind of things. But they also have to be funded. So as much as it is about balancing the book, it's about getting the right measure in terms of the policies out to stimulate that growth. And you talk about, taxes, for example, corporation tax. You want it to be attractive to businesses to invest, employ people, so that employment rate goes down, so you haven't got much take on the benefit. All of these little things that you may not think have a big impact have a huge impact on the wider picture. I'm just scanning through the rest of the comments here. Visual saying here, do whatever layout you're comfortable with. People don't come with the visuals. Yeah, you know what? I've started to pay attention a little bit to it recently, purely because it's nice when you jump on the live, you know what the topic is, that kind of stuff. You can kind of get a sense of where you're at in the conversation very quickly. But yeah, I like this layout. It might change, but it just does put things like, it does put things like the podcast, which is right here. It gives you the QR code so you can actually grab the book, which is also down in this corner right here. And it gives you all of the social outlets as well. So visually, it gives you stuff that you can get into very, very quickly, particularly if you didn't join me on this live and you're watching this on replay, which I thank you for. But anyway, I want to keep it relatively brief. That's the news today. It's kind of a mixed bag, good news, bad news, good news that inflation is down. But I guess a little bit worrying when you hear Jeremy Hunt say that, if interest rates pushes us into a recession, then so be it. Many people will find that disconcerting. And I just wanted to provide a little bit of content and a few context and a few thoughts on that note. But I appreciate you for watching. Again, if you have not already smashed the like button, please smash the like button. We've only got 9 likes on here right now, guys. Come on, let's get this up to maybe 15 or 20. That would be amazing. If you found value, you'll be surprised how much that actually helps with the YouTube algorithm. It really, really does mean that the algorithm pushes it out to other people who may actually find this useful. But I appreciate every single one of you for joining. Thank you so much. Enjoy your Friday. I mean, the weather's been amazing, and I should be going away. I'm not sure whether I am right now because we've left it till the last minute. But whatever you're doing this weekend, have a great one. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will catch you later on. Cheers.